The ceiling looks the same as always, but tonight a 10-year-old stumble replays behind closed eyelids. A forgotten homework detail would not wake you at 2 a.m., yet this memory arrives uninvited and fully dressed in sensation. The heat climbs the back of your neck, as if the fall happened 3 seconds ago instead of 3,000 days ago. Why does a moment of awkwardness that lasted half a breath still feel sharper than a genuine achievement you have to work to recall? Something about embarrassment refuses to fade on schedule, and the more you wish it gone, the more vividly it returns. The simplest answer points to pain, and pain has a way of searing events into memory. We remember emotionally charged events better than neutral ones, and embarrassment is a small bolt of social lightning. From an early age, we learn that belonging matters, and the threat of being seen as strange or clumsy can cut deeply. Our brains treat moments of high feeling as if they belong in a bright folder labeled, "Keep this close." That label says something important happened, and something important deserves rehearsal. So we replay the stumble, the wrong word, the public mistake, each time sharpening the grooves of recall. But here the simple answer begins to crack. Not every painful memory glows this brightly. A childhood injury, a frightening near miss, even a profound loss can soften with time until the edges blur. Yet the memory of mispronouncing a word in front of the whole class can remain razor-edged for decades. So the question narrows. What is special about social pain that keeps it so stubbornly fresh? Part of the answer lives inside the peculiar way we see ourselves through other people's eyes. During an embarrassing moment, it is not just the event that stings, it is the imagined audience. You become the main character in a humiliating scene, and your mind instantly assumes the audience paid full attention. This assumption has a name in psychology: the spotlight effect. Researchers have shown that people overestimate how much others notice their appearance, their mistakes, their nervous habits. In one well-known experiment, college students believed everyone remembered their embarrassing t-shirt. In truth, few did. But the feeling of being watched burns the moment into memory because social threat triggers a powerful survival system. Long before language existed, being excluded from a group could mean real danger. Our brains still respond to social rejection by activating some of the same regions that process physical pain. That overlap helps explain why an embarrassing moment can feel like a wound that keeps reopening. However, the memory does not stay vivid all by itself. It requires a hidden helper. It gets help from a quiet, nightly ritual you may not even notice. In the stillness before sleep, the mind often replays unfinished emotional business. An embarrassing memory arrives precisely when defenses are low and self-criticism has the floor. Each replay does more than refresh the image. It adds a new coat of present embarrassment to the old event. What you feel now is not the exact same feeling you had then. It is a blend of past discomfort and the current judgment that the past self should have known better. Every time you pull a memory into awareness, the memory becomes temporarily flexible. During this brief window, the brain can strengthen, weaken, or subtly alter what gets stored again. Scientists call this process reconsolidation, and it means memory is not a playback of a fixed recording. It is a reconstruction built anew each time, using bits of the original experience plus whatever emotion is present now. When you cringe at your own memories, you may be injecting fresh doses of social anxiety into an already vivid scene. So the memory grows brighter, not because it was perfectly preserved, but because you keep redrawing it with sharper colors. This explains a strange paradox. The more you try to push the memory away, the more firmly it returns. Trying not to think about a white bear makes the bear appear almost instantly. Similarly, pressing down an embarrassing recollection often triggers a rebound that brings it right back to center stage. Each failed attempt at suppression becomes another rehearsal, another fresh coat of emotional paint. Yet not everyone experiences the grip of embarrassing memories with the same strength. People who tend to worry more about what others think may find their embarrassing memories more vivid and more frequent. The habit of rumination, the repetitive chewing over past mistakes, turns a small social trip into a long mental loop. A friend might forget your awkward self-introduction by the next day, but you may carry it for years. The gap between how you saw the moment and how others actually saw it is often vast. That gap reveals something important. The vividness of the memory is not a reliable measure of the event's actual significance. The brain does not assign memory strength based on objective importance alone. Emotional arousal and repetition hold more weight. It assigns strength based on emotional arousal during encoding and subsequent rehearsal. Embarrassment offers plenty of arousal, but the rehearsal comes largely from you. The man lying in the dark does not pause to separate the original fall from the years of retelling it in his head. To him, the memory feels like a clear snapshot snapped on the spot, untouched by time. But if he could compare the first version with the current version, he would likely notice differences. Some details would be sharper. The faces of witnesses, the exact words someone said. Other details would be dramatized. His own movements in slow motion, the imagined laughter louder than reality. And woven through it all is the thread of self-criticism added later. I should have paid more attention. That later commentary masquerades as part of the original event. What feels like a memory of the fall is often a memory of the story you have told yourself about the fall. The story gets better with each telling, more vivid, more damning, but not more accurate. Some psychologists compare these ultra-clear, embarrassing moments to flashbulb memories. Flashbulb memories are vivid recollections of dramatic events, like hearing shocking news. They feel photographically detailed, yet research shows they can still contain significant errors. Similarly, the embarrassing memory feels so real partly because you have rehearsed it so often, not because it was perfectly recorded. The confidence you have in the memory is not a good guide to its precision. This can be unsettling. You may think you remember exactly what happened, but your own mind has been quietly editing the film. Understanding this mechanism begins to change the meaning of those late-night cringes. They are not flashes of permanent truth about your worth. They are mental habits, well-practiced and emotionally charged, but still habits. Like any habit, they can be examined, understood, and eventually redirected. The first step is noticing that the burning embarrassment you feel right now is not the same as the embarrassment you felt then. It is a new emotion generated by your current brain in response to an old story. The original event gave you one wound. The repeated replay gives you hundreds of smaller ones, all self-inflicted. But the door swings both ways. If memory is reconstructed, it can also be reconstructed with less sting. Return once more to the hallway where the young person stumbled. At the time, the stumble felt like a public unmasking. But now, decades later, the only person still holding the magnifying glass is the same person who fell. Here is the reversal. The reason the memory stays so vivid is not because the embarrassment was huge, but because the attention you paid to it afterward was consistent and punishing. The memory became a project, maintained by nightly rehearsal, protected by avoidance, and fueled by the fear of being judged. The real cost was never the half-second stumble. It was the thousands of moments spent avoiding similar situations or flinching at the memory. So the vividness is less a marker of a terrible mistake and more a marker of a dedicated mental practice. That practice began as an attempt to prevent future shame, but it ended up preserving the shame indefinitely. When you realize that the memory is a reconstruction, you can also realize that you are the one holding the brush. And a painter who knows they are painting can choose different colors. This does not mean you can simply erase the memory or decide to feel no embarrassment. But you can change your relationship to the recall. Instead of fighting the memory or diving into self-criticism, you can observe it with curiosity. You might notice the story-like quality, the exaggerated details, the audience you inserted that probably never existed. Small experiments can help. Next time the memory surfaces, try recalling it from a third-person view, as if watching a character in a film. This shift in perspective has been shown to reduce the emotional intensity of upsetting memories. Another option is to ask what you would say to a friend who had the same experience. That compassionate voice is usually far kinder than the internal critic, and it belongs to you as well. The goal is not to forget the moment entirely. Forgetting is not a choice we can simply make. The goal is to let the memory stop feeling like an emergency every time it knocks. Recall the man in bed, the ceiling, the old stumble. If he could see the memory as a well-worn path rather than a permanent scar, the next visit might feel less sharp. He might notice that his body tenses before the memory fully forms, and that tension is a signal he can learn to soften. The vividness that once felt like a curse becomes a testament to the brain's deep concern with belonging, a concern that itself deserves compassion. Behind every embarrassing memory is a mind that wanted to connect well with others and still cares about that. That caring is not a flaw, it is simply a human feature, and the memories it creates are not life sentences but stories we can learn to hold more lightly.